My name is Clara, and I'd like to tell you about something that happened to me. This is the story of how I went from being a discarded software engineer to owning the very patent that would make Orbber a $600 million corporate merger. It's about betrayal, revenge, and the quiet power of having the last word when everyone thought I'd been silenced forever. 11 years ago, I stepped into High Dynamics Seattle office with a refurbished laptop and a fire in my chest. I'd come from a Rust Belt town in western Pennsylvania, where I taught myself Python in a dusty public library because my family couldn't afford Wi-Fi, let alone a computer. Every algorithm I built felt like architecture lines of logic meant to last. High-end's data orchestration platform became my cathedral. I gave it everything: skipped holidays, sleepless sprints, collapsed relationships. Then, on a rainy Tuesday morning, it all vanished. Your position has been terminated. That's all the email said. No name, no explanation, just a sterile subject line in a locked-out company Slack. 11 years of building turned into a ghosted login. I sat in my cramped apartment in Capitol Hill, a spoon halfway to my mouth, eating dry oatmeal from a cracked bowl. My pajamas hadn't been washed in a week, and the only sound was the whir of my ancient air purifier. My laptop sat open on a freelancing site, screaming for young, hungry developers willing to hustle. I clicked one listing, looking for AIML, Ninja must relocate, equity only, free snacks. I nearly laughed. Then I saw it, a headline on the tech news site I had opened out of habit. Haiyan merger collapses over software rights dispute. My breath caught. The $600 million deal Haiyan had been gloating about for months dead over something buried in legal red tape. The words core architecture conflict leaped off the screen. I knew what that meant. I was the architecture. A chill moved through me. I'd written that backbone, every function, every patch. They couldn't erase me. Not really. The next morning, I found an envelope wedged under my door. Heavy, thick, legal. My name typed across the front in sharp font from Carson and Adler LLP corporate litigation out of San Francisco. I opened it with shaking hands. Dear Miss Bennett. It began like an execution sentence. We represent Arian Technologies regarding the proposed acquisition of High Dynamics. We are requesting a meeting to discuss your rights in relation to patent no. US $10 million for $156,789, which lists you as the sole inventor. I blinked. A patent. Mine. I didn't even remember filing one. I opened my laptop, fingers trembling as I entered the number into the USTO database. The page loaded like molasses on my budget connection. Then there it was, my name, plain as day. Dynamic Cloud Load Optimization Framework. Clara R. Bennett, listed as the sole inventor. No Haiyan, no co-developers, just me. Nearly 6 years ago, I'd signed a stack of forms at the urging of Dr. Martin Keene, my mentor and former CTO, the kind of guy who used to solve architecture problems on napkins during coffee breaks and wore thrifted blazers like armor. He'd been forced out during Haiyan's pivot, right before the suits took over. Just in case, he'd said, handing me that manila folder like it was a life raft. You don't wait for a storm to bore the windows. At the time, I thought he was being dramatic. Now I realized he'd seen it all coming. My mind darted back to the moment he appeared in my cubicle, limping from a hiking injury he never let heal. ID badge clipped to his belt loop because he claimed lanyards were for bureaucrats. He tossed the folder onto my desk and said, "You're filing this patent yourself. Martin, that's the legal team's job." I protested. "I sent the specs over weeks ago. They'll put it through." "No, they'll bury it," he said, locking eyes with me. "File it under a team, bury your name, and pin it to Mason's chest when the deal goes public. I hesitated. I was just a senior dev, not a founder, not a C-suite player. They'll reject it. I told him. Then they'll forget. He replied, which is exactly what we want. So I did it. Filled out the paperwork late one Friday night. Used my home address. Listed myself as the sole creator. Attached the diagrams Martin helped polish. Then I tucked it away and went back to debugging integration pipelines for the next 5 years, forgetting that tiny act of rebellion. Until now. Back in my apartment, I paced the hardwood floors, each creak echoing louder than the last. My cat, Pixel, pawed at the thick envelope from Carson and Adler like it was a mouse toy. My brain spun as I stared again at the patent page. This wasn't just protection, this was leverage. Martin didn't just save my code. He gave me a fuse, and Hyen had just lit it. They'd fired me thinking they were clearing the path for a smooth acquisition. But instead, they'd tripped a wire they didn't even know was there, and now Arian, the would-be buyer, knew it to dot at 7:02 a.m. My phone lit up. A 415 area code San Francisco. My stomach dropped. Hyen HQ? I let it ring until it went to voicemail. Clara, it's Mason. The voice slid out, oily and Fox-friendly. Mason Caldwell, Hyen CEO, a man who could sell you a dream while stealing your house keys. Hate how things ended. Let's reconnect. Water under the bridge, right? He chuckled, awkwardly. There's been some confusion. An old doc popped up. Something about a patent. You know, that cloud balancing thing you helped with. Helped? I wrote every damn line of that system while Mason was off sipping scotch with Arian's board. I didn't call back. Instead, I texted the last number Martin ever gave me. Buried in a goodbye email. Martin, it's Clara. That patent you pushed me to file, it's live. Hyen wants it. Call me. He called at 1:53 p.m. sharp. Took them long enough. He rasped, that familiar gravel voice weathered and calm. They fired you before the merger. Didn't they? 2 weeks before. I whispered. No. Reason. None. Classic. He spat. They thought they could wipe the slate. But that patent hits the backbone, Clara. The whole house runs on it. Then he gave me a name, Lydia Alvarez. IP law specialist with a reputation for turning corporate bullies into puddles. I dialed. Immediately. Ms. Alvarez? I'm Clara Bennett. I think I own something Hyen wants to bury. Her laugh was cool steel. Oh, sweetheart, you've got them by the throat. She told me to forward everything, the certified letter, Mason's voicemail, the original patent, docs. At noon, another envelope slid through my mail slot, this time from Hyen's HR department. Their tone was colder, vague claims about proprietary materials on my laptop, thin threats masked as reminders. I sent it to Lydia. They're bluffing, she said. Desperate. Let's make them sweat. For the first time since I got that termination email, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel replaceable. I felt loaded. Lydia laid out the strategy fast. Hyen was grasping, hoping to scare me into signing over the patent before their merger completely collapsed. But it was already too late. Arian doesn't care about Hyen anymore, she said. They want you. They want the real inventor, and they want to deal direct. My mind reeled. Yesterday, I was just another out-of-work developer in threadbare sweats and overdue bills. Today, I was the bottleneck, the leverage, the key. I called Martin again, needing his clarity. What do I do? Martin, they're offering severance, apologies, even a job. His voice came through like steel wrapped in static. You don't negotiate with snakes, Clara. You strike. They tossed you after you built their kingdom. Now you hold the deed to the throne. He was right. I'd coded that framework through migraines, through my mother's chemotherapy, through Mason Caldwell's hollow praise and boardroom smiles. I had built their future while quietly surviving my own storms. They didn't deserve my mercy. Lydia scheduled a meeting with Arian for the following week. Keep your head down until then. She warned. Let Hyen spiral. They'll overplay their hand. She was right. 3 days later, my phone buzzed with a name I hadn't seen in over a year. Priya. We'd shared countless late nights debugging disasters before she moved into middle management. Her voice shook. Clara, Mason asked me to reach out. He wants to resolve things quietly. I closed my eyes, anger and sorrow mixing like static in my chest. They were using her now like they used me. Tell Mason to speak to my lawyer, I said, my tone steady. And Priya, don't let them use you the way they used me. I ended the call with hands that trembled not from fear, but from power finally reclaimed. That night, Lydia forwarded me a message from Arian's legal team. They were ready to negotiate directly. No middleman, no Hyen, just me. The boardroom at Arian's downtown Seattle office gleamed with polished glass and stainless steel minimalism masking billions in movement. I walked in wearing the same black blazer I used to wear on code demo days. Mason Caldwell was already seated across the table, sweat darkening the edge of his collar despite his carefully curated posture. 2 of his attorneys flanked him, all smugness and silence. Lydia sat beside me, calm as fire contained in a bottle. Mason offered me his rehearsed grin, the one that earned him standing ovations at tech summits. Clara, great to see you. Let's clear this up. No drama, just progress. I didn't speak. Let him fill the silence with his nervous optimism. He launched into nostalgia how I was always so loyal. So relentless. How they regretted how things unfolded. He nudged a contract across the glass, a payout, a consultant title, credit in the press release. All the trimmings of being tolerated, not valued. Let's fix this patent mix-up, he said. Lydia didn't blink. Mix-up? You mean the patent Miss Bennett owns outright? I leaned forward, every word razor sharp and calm. I built your platform, Mason, every line of code, every 2 a.m. hotfix. While you were test driving your next luxury car, you fired me with a blank email, no subject, no name, no decency. And now your deal's dead because you never even knew what you had. I pulled out my own document and notice of exclusive talks with Arian. Mason stared, the blood draining from his face. I smiled just enough to be polite. This isn't a negotiation, Mason. It's a handover, and I'm not the one sweating. They're licensing the patent from me. You're not in the deal. Mason's face turned the color of old printer paper. His lawyers looked like someone had pulled the plug on their retainer. Clara, wait, he started. I stood, Lydia already gathering our things. Good luck with your board, I said coolly. I hear they're not thrilled. We walked out, leaving behind a silence so dense it could shatter glass. I didn't need his remorse. I had his collapse. My new office at Arian Technologies overlooks Elliott Bay, the Seattle skyline gleaming like a future that finally knew my name. The brushed steel plate on my door reads Bennett, Chief IP Strategist, no junior, no interim, no asterisk, just me. 3 days ago, Arian closed the deal. They bought the patent outright, then handed me a job offer with a number so staggering. I stared at it for 5 minutes before I even smiled. The signing bonus alone paid off my mom's medical debt, my undergrad loans, and left room for a down payment on a condo with real sunlight. I'm not budgeting oatmeal anymore. Meanwhile, Hyen Dynamics is unraveling. TechCrunch, VentureWire, even the Journal are covering the collapse. Lawsuits pending. CEO Mason Caldwell under investigation for corporate negligence. His empire bleeding out in headlines. I got a voicemail from him, 48 seconds of regret I never hit play on. I forwarded it to Martin with a note. Me, 1. He sent back a gif of a wolf howling at the moon. I laughed, then deleted it all. Mason's voice holds no weight here because his world is ash, and I lit the match. Now I stand in my corner office, coffee in hand, not gas station grounds or instant mix, but real beans roasted by a local co-op run by women in tech. A quiet luxury I'd once thought frivolous. Now it's fuel. I don't feel like a queen on a throne. I don't feel like a destroyer. I feel free. Free from the grind that swallowed my 20s. Free from watching someone else get credit for the code I wrote through migraines and heartbreak. Free from begging to be seen. I'm not the girl in oversized sweatpants sobbing over broken bills anymore. I'm the woman who wrote the backbone of Hyan's system and then walked away with its soul. Now I build something different, not just cleaner code, but a cleaner future. Hyan can drown in their stock options, their boardroom infighting, their damage, control press tours. I have a future, and it looks nothing like their corner-cutting vision of progress. Every morning, I walk into my new office, and it still stuns me, the quiet hum of a space that feels earned. The kind of calm you don't notice until you've lived in chaos. It's not just a job. It's a life I never let myself imagine when I was debugging code with tears in my eyes and stale cereal in my mug. Sometimes I think about my old cubicle at Hyan, the flickering fluorescent light, the peeling motivational poster, Mason's voice, floating overhead making promises he never intended to keep. That version of me, young, determined, afraid, still lives somewhere in my bones. But she's not driving anymore. Last week, I found an old photo tucked in a box. I hadn't unpacked, a company holiday picture from my first year at Hyan. I'm in the back, half shuffled and half smiling. Like I still believed we were building something that mattered. Martin's in the shot too, ID badge on his belt loop like always, smirking like he knew how it would all unfold. He saw the storm coming and handed me the umbrella. Now I'm building again at Arian. Yes, but more than that, a future where engineers like me don't get erased, where brilliant minds aren't tossed aside to make way for someone's golf buddy. It's slower, but it's mine. Hyan's headlines are fading. Mason's probably somewhere crafting his next pitch deck. I don't care. I'm not angry anymore. I'm done. I have my coffee, my cat Pixel sleeping in a sunbeam, and the future that rose from the fire they tried to leave me in. That's enough. But sometimes, late at night, when the city quiets and the only light comes from my monitor's glow, I think about all the other Claras out there, the ones still hunched over keyboards in cramped apartments, pouring their brilliance into systems that will outlast them but never bear their names. The ones getting those sterile termination emails, wondering if their years of dedication meant anything at all. I started a fund last month quietly through Arian's corporate foundation. We're calling it the Invisible Architect Initiative. It provides legal support and patent filing assistance to engineers whose work gets buried under corporate bureaucracy. Martin sits on the advisory board. Naturally, he still wears thrifted blazers and clips his ID badge to his belt loop. But now he's helping other mentors recognize when their protégés need protection. The first case came to us 3 weeks ago. A young developer named Alex from Portland, whose machine learning algorithm was powering a startup's entire product suite. The founders had pushed him out right before their Series B, claiming his code was collaborative effort. Sound familiar? We filed his patent application the same day. Sometimes the best revenge is making sure it never happens to someone else. Last Tuesday, I got an unexpected email. Subject line, "Thank you." It was from Priya, my old colleague. She'd left Hyan finally, taking half the engineering team with her. They'd started their own company, and she wanted me to know they were implementing transparent IP policies from day one. every line of code tracked, every patent filed with proper attribution. She said watching my story unfold had opened her eyes to how many brilliant engineers disappear into corporate machinery. I wrote back immediately. The door's always open if you need legal advice. We've got your back. Because that's what this is really about, having each other's backs. Building something that lasts beyond quarterly reports and merger headlines. Creating a world where the people who architect the future get to see their names etched into its foundation. The tech industry loves to talk about disruption, about changing the world. But real change isn't about the next flashy product launch or IPO announcement. It's about the quiet moments when someone like Martin slips a manila folder across a desk and says, "Just in case." It's about recognizing that the most powerful code isn't always the most visible. Sometimes it's the patent filed at midnight by someone who never expected to need it. My story isn't just about getting even with Mason Caldwell or walking away with Hyan's crown jewel. It's about proving that brilliance can't be erased, even when corporate machines try their hardest to make it disappear. It's about the moment when the underestimated become unavoidable, when the discarded become indispensable, and maybe, just maybe, it's about making sure that the next Clara doesn't have to fight this battle alone.